In today's video, I'm going to be sharing my top 5 DIYs of 2024. Did your favorite make the cut? You'll just have to stick around to find out. I'm Robin. Thanks for crash landing on Crafts Unleashed by Robin. Now let's get started. For our first winter decor DIY, we're going to make a snowflake riser using this wood snowflake that I got from Dollar General on clearance for $1.50. So the first thing I did was remove all their embellishments. It was stapled down, so I just took my small flathead screwdriver and pretty easily removed all those staples. Y'all, I hope you had a very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everybody. I'm so excited for the new year. It's a clean slate and lots of plans for this channel. If you are new here, welcome. So excited you're joining us. And if you are one of my returning subscribers or viewers, I love you guys so, so much. Now, where I removed the string, it left a little bit of a, I don't know, boogered up spot, but some sandpaper took care of that. And by the time I get done decorating this piece, you won't even notice it. Now on the back, I removed the label and it left a little glue residue. So a good tip to have is if you don't have any Goo Gone, is take a piece of sandpaper and go over it, and that will usually take care of any glue residue, just like I did there. Now I wanted a good base for the center of the snowflake, so I'm using my plaster chalk paint and trying to be very careful and only stay in the middle part. The paper that they had down, I didn't even try to remove it. I guess I was being lazy. So I just decided to paint it instead. And I was going to leave it white and maybe put some glitter on it that way. And I thought, no, something just popped in my head. And you'll see here in a second what I do. So once the plaster was dry, I went in with Southern Bluebell, and this color is so pretty. It reminds me of winter. And it also reminds me of the way our pond looks when it's totally frozen over solid. So I went with this color once again, trying to be very careful to stay within the center. I actually did pretty good considering how sloppy I can be sometimes, and I did give it 2 coats of the Southern Bluebell. Next, I'm taking my Mod Podge and putting down just a thin layer into the center. Now, here is another little trick. I find it's much easier to use Mod Podge if you put it in one of these condiment squeeze bottles. You get 2 in a package from the Dollar Tree. Just pour your Mod Podge in there, and to me, it makes it a whole lot easier to get out, and you're not getting out too much when you stick your brush down into the bottle. So as you saw there, I sprinkled the center with some white glitter, and that just makes it look all kind of frosty. It reminds me of that frosty pond, our pond that I was telling you about. I then decided to take the Mod Podge and just go over the outermost point of the snowflake. And I did that to each one of them, just dabbing some Mod Podge on using that sponge brush. And I love using sponge brushes for Mod Podge because, you know, if they when they get too gunked up, you can just throw them away. I take the white glitter once again and give each of those main points on the snowflake a good coating of the white glitter. Now, if you're new here and you like what you see, I invite you to hit that subscribe button and stick around a while. We have a lot of fun here on this channel, and I would love to have you join the Crafty Crew. We have a great community, and I know you're just going to love it. Other than the glitter, I left this piece pretty rustic on the front. I didn't do anything else to it except that center portion. But for the feet, I am using these little wooden snowmen that we got from the Dollar Tree, and I'm using my Gorilla Super Glue Gel. But if you want to use hot glue, go right ahead, use what you have. I'm trying to use up what I have. Many times I've been back to that pond and, seen a deer standing by the edge of the water. We've got a couple of, old trees growing up through there. I love it. You guys let me know what you think in the comments down below. It's fun to take a walk down memory lane. My top 5 DIYs of 2024 is part of this great playlist that is hosted by Katie of Lady Red Crafting and Lisa of Our Gray House. Their links and the playlist, of course, are listed in the description box. Did yours make the top 5? How many of these do you remember me making this year? Keep watching. I'm taking this bamboo cutting board from the Dollar Tree, and what I'm going to do with it is make a little riser out of it. So, what I've done is I measured down 1 inch from the top, 1 inch from the bottom on both sides. Then I took 4 of these cubes and traced out where I needed them to be because these are going to hold up my handles. Yep, I'm going to put handles on my little riser. And I just attached the cubes down using some wood glue. Now, for our third challenge item, it had to be a paintbrush. Now, the sponge brushes are essentially held together with a dowel rod, but I chose to use these old chippy brushes. So I'm bringing out my miter box and saw, and I am going to cut these just right above where the metal piece is. And the cool thing is I will still be able to use these trusty chip brushes even if they don't have a handle. I then took some 80 grit sandpaper, sanded down the handles really well, and gave one side one coat of the burnt umber paint by Apple Barrel. Then I gave the top of the cutting board one good coat of Beachcomber Beige by Apple Barrel because we're going to be decoupaging that gorgeous rooster napkin. I then took moss chalk paint, painted around the sides of my cubes and the edge around the entire cutting board. Once the paint was completely dry on the top of my cutting board, I applied a generous coat of Mod Podge to the entire top portion and let it dry completely before moving on to applying my napkin. I then took a small piece of painter's tape and used it to help me remove the plies to the napkin. This was a 3-ply napkin, and all I need is the top part, the pretty part. I then took a paintbrush and dampened it with a little water, drew it onto the napkin, and am just pulling away so it looks a little jagged. I don't want this napkin to look like it was just glued on. I want it to look like it was actually meant to be there. And I just keep doing this until I'm satisfied with the way my napkin looks. Once the Mod Podge was entirely dry, I placed down the napkin onto the top of the board where I wanted it. And I'm using a Teflon sheet that I believe I ordered from Amazon. You can also use parchment paper if that's what you have. I just figured this way I would not be buying as much parchment paper. So I took my iron and am going over the napkin, and this reactivates the Mod Podge. And guys, if you're a beginner at decoupage and you have trouble with wrinkles, this is a total wrinkle-free method. Now, before you move on and begin to seal your image, you want to let it cool completely. Now, I didn't feel like this, I don't know, it needed something. I wanted to add some more rusticness to this piece. Y'all know I got to distress everything. So I lightly applied some antique wax even to the image itself and dabbed off any excess onto the towel. I didn't want a heavy distress. I just wanted it needed a little something something. You know what I mean? Sometimes things just need a little extra. So that's what I'm doing here. I go over the napkin as well. Then the last step, I attached 4 wood beads to the bottom. I forgot to show that. I'm sorry. And then I am attaching my paint handles to the top of my little riser with wood glue. And that is it. Check it out. This beautiful but simple riser was not only my favorite of this video, but it was y'all's favorite too. And let me know down below if you remember me making these DIYs. I was a guest host of this collaboration called Just Our Imagination. And y'all, still to this day, these people give me grief because I got to choose one of the items and I chose a dog leash. Simple to use, and they still give me grief. I'm starting this out with a little tin that I got at Dollar General. I think I paid a dime for it, and a 6-inch wood round. And in case you haven't guessed, we are making a frosty hat. But I end up changing my mind. So the reason I'm tracing is so I will know where to paint and where to glue. And when I started this craft, I was originally going to use the hat as a stand and just place a candle on top. And I said, Robin, that is so boring. So I changed my mind and we're going to build another little display. So I attached the bucket to the round using E6000 and hot glue. And now I am covering all that floral foam with some of that snow blanket stuff, and I'm just using this little, I don't know what you call it. It's a pink pokey tool from the Dollar Tree. It's very handy, and I am just shoving this down around that floral foam. I wanted this to be more of a forest scene. So I'm taking some bottle brush trees and popping off the bases. You can always save those for later. But by doing that, that just helps them stick down into the floral foam better. And of course, I will use some hot glue after I dry fit all my pieces just to check my placement. Did I want 2 trees? Did I want 3? I ended up going with 3, and this one is my favorite, y'all. I love the simplicity of it. And if you're new here, welcome. I'm so glad you clicked on this video. If you enjoy these crafts that you see here today, please hit that subscribe button and join our little family here on YouTube, because there's lots of room around my craft table for new folks. And if you enjoy these crafts today, be sure to hit that thumbs up button, because that lets me know you like what I am putting out there. All right, so I went to my yard. I wanted to add a natural element to this piece and just broke up a stick into several pieces. Never underestimate Mother Nature. Use what you have. These are so inexpensive to make, and I love this little cardinal. This is such a simple little scene. It's just a little cardinal. He's landed on a pile of logs out in the middle of the woods, and he's just kind of chilling out, maybe watching over me, maybe. When I made this display, which as y'all know, it hasn't been that long ago, I was going for something that could be left out all winter long, right up until spring. So I'm just adding some more little woodsy elements like these little mini pine cones. And then to keep it really neutral, I just took a piece of this beautiful neutral snowflake ribbon, folded it into thirds, and attached it around for the brim of his hat. And that was pretty much all there was to this one. It was definitely my favorite of this particular video, and you guys said it was yours too. For this one, I'm using this solid wood plaque that I actually picked up at a store called Bargain Hunt. Guys, this is solid wood. It's very well put together. It was very rough, so the first thing I had to do was take it outside and sand it using my electric sander. Then I brought it back in, and as you see, I'm using my cashew chalk paint, and I'm just giving it a hit and miss coating of the paint using a very well loved chip brush. I didn't care for full coverage. This is just going to be the first layer of the paint to make this board look old, weathered, rustic, and I just love the way this turned out. Now, as I mentioned, layering paint is one of the easiest ways to achieve a very weathered, rustic look for your wood. So I do this all over the board. So this first layer of paint was not completely dry yet. And what I like to do is then go in with my second layer. And I'm just using some brown paint that I had to water down a bit. And I'm using this exact same chip brush to go in with my second layer, because wood, as it weathers and ages, it it changes colors. It develops different um, colors, if you will. I don't know how else to explain it. So I'm just going in very lightly, dragging the brush across each board, going with the wood grain until I get the look that I would not. It's pretty cool. So for my third layer, I'm using one of my favorite techniques, which is a cut up kitchen sponge. And I brushed on some dark gray paint, and I'm just gliding that along. I know it's hard to see in this clip, but it just adds another layer of weathering. This is a silk screen transfer. Um, just like you would see from some of the major brands like Chalk Couture and etc. But the chalk paste I'm using, I picked up on Amazon, and I do have that linked in my Amazon store below if you're interested in that. But I swiped 2 forks from my husband's man cave, bent them up at the bottom, and these are going to be my hooks. I also spray painted them black, drilled 2 holes in them, and this just adds, oh, you're going to love it. Wait till you see it. So I'm just measuring up, I think about 5.5 inches from the bottom, setting my marks. Now, I did get my husband to drill these in for me because, well, the fork kept wanting to spin around on me. And he said that was because I forgot to drill a pilot hole. This is what we started with, a plain piece of wood. And guys, look how this turned out. I love, love, love that rustic feel. I think I achieved the look of the weathered wood. You guys will have to let me know what you think in the comments. You could style this so many different ways. I wanted to just pop on here for just a second before we get to my #1 pick for 2024 and say how much I appreciate each and every one of you for all of your support, your kind comments. You inspire me to keep going. You really, really do. And this channel would not exist if it weren't for all of you. So, with that being said, I want to wish everybody a very happy and prosperous 2025. I'm going to have some subtle changes coming to the channel in the next year that I'm really excited about. So, with all of that, do you have any guesses as to what my #1 favorite DIY of 2024 is? Go ahead and make your guess, and you'll find out in just a second. This DIY may be my favorite of all time. I'm taking one of these balls from the Dollar Tree and I'm going to spray paint it white. Now, it started raining, so I didn't get to put on a second coat, but that's not going to matter because we're going to cover this in fabric. We are about to create a snow baby. So I positioned my ball. Now these balls have like a line across the center. So I positioned that at the very top. That way it's not going to be seen. And I dug out this fabric from my stash. It's really, really stretchy. And I'm just kind of positioning it and stretching it, finagling it, because I want that covered. You're not even going to see the little lines in the ball. You're not going to see any of that blue showing through. Just trust me, you're not going to see that. And I want to take a second to welcome anybody that's new here and welcome to my returning subscribers and visitors. I love you guys. And if you're new, I would love it if you would consider subscribing to help me reach my goal of 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year. Share this video with your friends and family and leave me a comment down below and let me know where you're from, where you're watching from. Okay, so I have trimmed this down to what I thought was a manageable piece. And I'm not concerned about the back of the ball because you're not going to see that. So I'm just kind of playing around with it. And I'm like, okay, Robin, it's time to glue it down. So I just use hot glue throughout this whole DIY. And I just start right there gluing it kind of to the top of the head. I'm not concerned really about the very tippy top of the ball because you're not going to see that either. Cut off the excess and just started kind of gluing down the pieces as I went. And I know y'all are going to see little pleats. Don't worry, you're not going to see it. Trust the process, people. Just trust me. This is the first doll I have ever made. And I think this is the biggest, I won't say biggest, but the most, well, it's not really involved. It's really pretty easy. But at any rate, this DIY, I'm in love with it. Okay. So her sock cap and matching mittens came from the Dollar Tree. And for my stuffing, I am using a pillow from the house. So that cost me absolutely nothing. I decided that hat was a little too big, so I did cut off some. And actually, in hindsight, I could have cut it down some more, but that's okay. So I just start gluing down the edge of the hat to her head there, and I'm going to pull it down lower in the back than the front. And I'm just smoothing that out. And I tell y'all, once y'all cut these Snugadoo hats and stuff, even the socks, man, you have got lint or whatever that is flying everywhere. So to give it a finished look, I had some of this chunky yarn left over, and I'm just trimming out the hat with that. And I think it just adds a really nice, finished, cute look to our little snow baby now. And okay, so to make this baby's head actually stand up and not flop around, I took 2 small dowels and I just shoved them up in that ball. Now this ball, um it's not styrofoam. It's not one of those inflatable ones, but it's some kind of foam, and you just shove them up there really, really easy. So that's what's going to hold her head in place. Now look what I found at the thrift store. This is a Carter's brand newborn little onesie. And I couldn't believe the price. I think this was $1 or something. They had a whole table full of them. And this is actually what kind of sparked the idea of making a snow baby. So I'm just going to stuff. Okay, so I put in a piece of floral foam, and this is what is going to hold those dowel rods in place. And I'm putting down some hot glue. It's really sturdy in there. Um, so now I'm just going to slide her head down into the styrofoam. Now,
And
remember the part of the hat that we cut off from before? This is what I'm going to use as her scarf. So I'm hot gluing that, and just like that, these pleats are going to magically disappear in there.
I
So I stuffed her mittens and I shoved her little arm down in there. Oh, that sounded bad. And I'm just hot gluing those to the arm there. And then I'm going to trim them out with the same chunky yarn that I used around the rim of her little sock cap. And this really just ties everything in and gives it a nice little finished look
to make.
and so I'm going to add just some little lines under her eye there and give her some little eyelashes just very lightly going in with the brush. I'd rather go in light, and that way you can make them darker later if you think it needs it, but that's always best. She got her daddy's nose, don't y'all think? She's got Frosty's nose. This is actually a carrot from Easter that I cut down to a size that I thought was cute and just hot glued it there to the center of her little face. Oh my goodness, she is so adorable, y'all. I can't stand it. This
I
one
just can't.
is by far my absolute favorite, probably of all time. Okay, this just she oh, my husband just fell in love with her. Y'all be sure to check the description box below to find the links to all of the full-length videos. This little snow baby is by far my favorite craft, DIY, whatever you want to call it, that I have ever made. And she was y'all's favorite of this particular video. I love her to pieces. She's not perfect, but hey, she is adorable. I want to thank you all so much for watching this video. This will be my last video of 2024. And until next time, we'll see you in 2025. And y'all go get your craft on. Bye.